Save your money and buy your own prime rib. I picked up 85 pounds of Canadian prime grade ribeye. This is regular price, $34.99 a pound, and I got it on sale for $24.99 a pound. I looked around at some of the specialty butcher places in Toronto, and they were charging upwards of $40 a pound. So this is a great deal. I got it from a local Canadian grocery store called Longo's. So I'm not a professional butcher, I'm just a home cook, and I'm here to show you that you don't have to be afraid to butcher your own steaks. They don't have to be perfect because you don't work in a restaurant. You're just a home cook. And it's a great way to save some money. What I didn't anticipate was the bone on the edge of the prime rib. So I don't have a bone saw. So I had to come up with some sort of solution where I could still cut through the meat where it's possible, but I'm going to have to cut off some steaks off the bone. I slice off a 3-bone prime rib roast. So guess where prime rib steaks come from, or ribeye steaks come from? The prime rib roast. So I'm going to set that aside for an amazing prime rib dish. So I just gotta get through Wow, look at the marbling on this prime grade ribeye. It's just different from what you see in other grocery stores where they're only selling AAA or choice grade. You can't compare the two. The quality of this meat, the tenderness of it, the distribution of the marbling is just incredible. And I'm telling you, the flavor even tastes different when you get a prime grade rib roast. This one not so much, because now I'm contending against the bone.
It's okay. Yeah, just cook down the meat and then until you get to the bone, cut off the bone.
That's the tricky part.
Does he have a chopping knife? You can hack the bone with the chopping knife. Yeah? Well, you got it. There you go. It looks like prime rib. It's huge.
It is prime rib.
Yeah, it's huge.
So this is going to be a little bit tricky.
Rib roast. Big one's a rib roast.
I think I'm just going to cut it here and here, and then whatever happens to the bone happens to the bone. And then I'm going to cut it this way.
Yeah, they don't all need to be even, but it's easier to cook if it's even, but...
Well, the tricky part is the bone.
Yeah.
Because now...
You see where the bone is? Yeah.
This one I'm going to have to cut off.
Yeah, cut it, yeah.
So you can do.
Well, that actually came out nice. Came out nice. You just want to keep it relatively even so the cook's even. And then whatever is bone left, I'll use it for soup. It's a nice soup. Most expensive soup in there. We're gonna use it for pulled beef. You know what I mean?
So again, I don't have a bone saw, so I had to cut the steaks off the bone. So I've got some steaks with the bone on and some without, where I struggled to cut through without some sort of bone saw or a saw to get through that. Now nothing is wasted. I'm going to use those bones for an amazing beef stock. So some people ask, how thick should I cut these things? Well, it's all dictated by the bone. So where's the space between the bones? That's where I'm cutting. So, you're looking at about 2 inches thick, approximately. But it's going to come down to, since I don't have a bone saw, I'm just trying to cut between the big rib bones, and whatever that thickness is, it is what it is. So one thing I want to address, and I think it's more of a marketing thing, is prime rib roast. When you buy a prime rib roast, it doesn't reflect anything to do with the grade of the meat. I don't know why they use the word prime in there, because it's very confusing. So what is different about this prime rib roast is that the grade is Canadian prime. And what that means is it's a very, very rare cut. So it's the best of the best that's on the cows. It's a specific cow that has a certain amount of marbling on there. So if you look at this side of the prime rib here, because it's Canadian prime grade, you can see this incredible marbling, which you will not get with AAA or what Americans call choice grade. Now, you can definitely get, choice grade on sale for $9 a pound sometimes, but you can't compare it to Canadian prime grade. It's like comparing a Honda Civic to a Porsche. Of course, the Porsche is going to cost a lot more, just like the prime grade. But you can't compare it to choice grade, which is a lot tougher and a lot more lean. All right, so a lot of people might ask, well, why didn't you use the $2,000 on a whole cow or a side of a cow? Because I think a side of a cow in Canada is about $2,000. Well, when you buy a whole side of a cow, you only get a few steaks and a couple roasts, the choice, like the really nice steaks that a lot of people want, and a lot of the roasts that people enjoy, like the prime rib roast or New York strip steak and so forth, and ribeye steaks and filet mignon. But in reality, what you're left with is a lot of tougher cuts, tougher roasts that are more difficult to cook, not as tender, and you got to cook for a very long time, and you get this huge mountain of ground meat, which is great for hamburgers, but that's a lot of ground meat to get through. I just want to spend 100% of my money on the steaks that I actually want, which is the ribeye steaks and also the prime rib roast. All right, cutting the steaks off of the bone because I don't have a bone steak. Not my finest butchering job. It's a bit of a hack job here, but you know what? As a home cook, if you're not working in a restaurant, who cares, man? You cut off the steaks. You can trim it a little bit to make it look a little bit better, but once you sear that thing with butter, garlic, thyme, sear off the edges, no one is going to care that it's not a perfectly butchered steak. I'm telling you. And you don't have to worry about that. As long as you cook it perfectly with great flavor, seasoned with salt and pepper, no one is going to complain about, oh, that steak wasn't cut perfectly like a professional butcher. All right, into the fourth slab of ribeye roast, and I'm slicing it up. This one has a lot of fat on the edge there, on the top part of the steak. I'm gonna leave it on for now, but when I do go to cook these things, I'm gonna slice that big blob of fat off and render that down and use that to sear off my steak. So it's a good way to use the animal fat there, the tallow oil there. I know a lot of people prefer tallow oil over some of the seed oils, so that's a great way to conveniently have tallow ready to go. Is you slice off a piece of that fat and then render that down and then cook your steaks. You're just gonna leave that on, so it's gonna be a mini roast. All right, here's the mountain of meat, 85 pounds, $2,100 of prime rib roast and ribeye steaks. So amazing.